Hello there and welcome to our video in which you can grab a copy of our free monthly household budget template. There's a version for Microsoft Excel and also a version for Google Sheets. So just pick the one you want and click on the appropriate link in the description below. Also, there's no need to sign up to any mailing list or anything like that. Just click on the link and it's yours for free. So in this video, I'm going to use the Excel version to show you how the template works. But the Google Sheets version works in exactly the same way, so you can go ahead and watch the video no matter which version you're going to use. Okay, so let's jump into the spreadsheet now and see how it works. Okay, so here we are over on the main page of the spreadsheet, and we'll just have a quick look at the layout before we go into how it works. So what we've done here is we've divided it up into two main categories. One is income and the other is outgoings. And we've got these summary charts over here on the right that will show you the overall picture of both your income and your outgoings once you've put in all your information for the month. And over on the left here, you've got a few different areas that you can add information to, such as your income and various outgoings. And then over here on the expenses tab, this is where you're going to enter all of your expenses one by one for the month. But we'll have a look at that in more detail later. Okay, so back to the main monthly budget tab, and as you can see, I put a bit of dummy information in there so we can see how the spreadsheet works. When you download your version of the Excel template or the Google Sheets template, you won't have that dummy information in there, so you can just start from scratch. Okay, so let's have a look at what you actually need to do to get your budget going. So the first thing you can do up here in this drop down is choose whether you want this to be a 1 month budget, a paycheck budget. So you might want to choose this option if you get paid fortnightly, for example, and you want to do a budget for one fortnight. Or you can choose a specific month, and you would do this if you wanted to make a budget for January, for example, and then you could make copies of this spreadsheet and do a separate budget for February and one for March, etc. But if you just want to have one standard monthly budget, you can just choose 1 month, and that's what I'm going to choose here. So it's up to you, the choice is yours. So the next thing you need to do on this panel here is fill in the income details for your household. This is any money that comes into your household, and that would be after tax. So if you've got a salary, you can put your salary in, and if you've got a partner and they've got a salary, you can put that in there too. If you've got a side hustle or some other business, you can put that in as well. So there's 8 spots in total that you can use to put in your different types of income. The next box down is the first of the outgoings. So I should explain that the outgoings are divided into 3 main parts. The first one is savings, which is money that you put aside to save or invest, which are technically outgoings to your household budget. So for example, you can see that I've got a college fund there, and you would do this if you're saving for a college fund for one of your children. But if you aren't saving or investing any money, then you can leave that section blank. But if you want to use it, there are 5 spots available for you to fill in. The next one down is for making debt repayments. So if you've got credit cards or student loans or car loans, etc., you can put your repayment information in there. So that's the second type of outgoing that you can see over here. So you've got savings, which is an outgoing, and you've got debt payments, which is also an outgoing. And then you've got your regular expenses. Now, because we all have a lot of expenses during a month, I haven't set this up so you put those expenses into this tab because there's just not enough room. So what we've got instead on this tab, you can create expense categories, and then over on the expenses tab, you can put in your itemized list of the expenses that you pay for during the month. And what you do is you put in a date and you put in a description, and then you choose one of the categories, which is actually a drop down. And those categories come from over here. And then of course you put in the amount. So you've got lots and lots of room to put in plenty of expenses over here, and that's why I didn't end up having that over here, because it would have just gone on for too long on this page, and I wanted to keep this as a nice 1-page dashboard. Okay, so what you need to do here is you create expense categories. you can create whatever categories you want. So I've got groceries there. You might have food as a category instead. You might have insurance as a category, motor vehicles as a category, entertainment. It's up to you to make whatever expense categories you like. And then when you enter amounts over here and you choose the categories, it will add up the amounts and bring it over here into the actual column over there. And you can see down the bottom there's a total, and it says $786 worth of actual expenses here by category. And that corresponds to the total at the top there of $786. And there's a little check total down the bottom, and that should always be 0. If it's not 0, it just means that over here, you've probably got a line where you haven't chosen a category like that. Okay, so you can see that's $15 out now. The total is $771 because that $15 amount hasn't come through to the other sheet. So that should always add up when you have all of your categories selected over here. Okay, so let's quickly run through the order in which you would do things on this spreadsheet. And before we do that, I'm just going to tell you that the only places that you should actually enter any information are into the white cells over here and also the white cells over here. So don't enter any information into any cells that are colored, even if they're lightly colored, because they've got formulas and functions in them. If you accidentally do that and you delete a formula or function, just press the undo button and that should fix the problem. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is just delete all of the information, and then I'll show you the order in which to do things on this template. Okay, so when you start off with a blank template like this, as I said before, the first thing that you can do is just choose whether you want 1 month, paycheck, or a particular month. Okay? And then the next thing you should do is fill out your budget numbers. So I'm going to go ahead and put a bit of information in now, and then we'll have a look. Okay, so I've just put the budget information in for the month, and you can see there that I've got the husband's salary, the wife's salary, and some side hustle income as well, and that comes to $3,300 in total. Now that $3,300 shows up on this little summary panel at the top here. So that's the total budgeted income there. And once we put in the actuals, it's going to compare them and work out the difference. I've also got the budget in for the outgoings. So you've got savings first, and I've just got that we're saving $200 this month for a college fund. And then I've got some loan repayments down here. So there's the credit card, the student loan, and the car loan. And the total budget for those repayments is $420 all up. Okay, so then the next thing you need to do is fill in the high level numbers for your expense categories. So I've just got those same categories there now that I had before, and you can see that the total budget comes to $1,580. So when you do the budget for your expenses, you're only doing it at the category level. You're not going over to the other tab and itemizing everything like you're going to do with the actual expenses. So what you end up with now up the top, you can see is you've got income of $3,300 and outgoings of $2,200. And as I said before, those outgoings include things like putting money away into savings and paying off debt. Okay, and you can also see those budget numbers have come through to a couple of the charts over here. So the next thing you need to do either during the month or at the end of the month is fill in your actual numbers. So I'm going to go ahead and just fill in the whole lot now, and then we can see the final result for this particular month. Okay, so I've just filled in all of the actual numbers for the month. And as I said, that's something that you can do either during the month as you go, or you can leave the whole lot until the end of the month. It's up to you. So what we've got here over in the actual section is we've got the husband's salary and the wife's salary, which came in as expected, of $1,500 and $1,000, but the side hustle was a little bit less at $500 versus a budget of $800. So all up, the actual income was $3,000 versus a budget of $3,300. And if we go up to the summary at the top, you can see the results there. So you've got the difference of $300 and it's in brackets because brackets mean that the number is bad. You made less of an income than you budgeted for, so you're down $300 in your household versus your budget. Okay, so then we've got actuals in for all of the outgoings as well. So we've got savings, and we actually saved or put away into savings $250. So we did $50 more than we planned. And then for debt repayments, you can see we paid an extra $100 on our credit card. So that's $300 of actual repayments versus a budget of $200. So that's why the actual total number there is higher than the budget. So those two amounts feed through to the outgoings line up here in the summary, but we also need to include our household expenses in there as well. So you can see now the numbers have come through in the actual column here for a total of $786. And that's all come from over here where I've just put in the itemized expenses that we had before. So when you're doing this for real, you'll put in all of your own actual expenses for the month, one by one. And as I said, you can do it during the month as the expenses happen, or you can wait until the end of the month. So each one of those expenses, I don't have too many in there, just 10 of them, have been categorized. And of course, they've all got amounts as well. And I'll just point out that with the dates, I've just got the date format there. That should be okay whether you use US dates or the international date format. But if you want to use a different date format, you can go ahead and make that change if you like. Okay, so those numbers flow through over here into the actual column, as I said before, and it also flows up to the summary up here, and it's included in outgoings. So we've got $2,200 as our budget for outgoings versus $1,556 of actuals. So you're $644 better off in outgoings than what you planned. And then down the bottom, you can see the net cash flow number. So you were $300 worse off with your income and $644 better off with your outgoings. And that leaves you better off by $344, which is technically money that you've got left to spend. So for example, you might decide to use that money to pay off more of your debt. So it could be a case of instead of paying $300 on your credit card down here, you could actually pay off another $344. So that would be $644 all up. And then you would come out completely square for the month up here with $0 left to spend. So you can use that difference amount there to see what you've got left over. So I'll just undo that. So you can see what you've got left over and you can allocate that money to savings or debt repayments, for example. And if you go and pop it in your spreadsheet here as well, you should get back to an amount that's left to spend of nil. But you don't have to put it in the spreadsheet if you don't want to. You can just leave it like that. Okay, so then over here, we also have our charts. So we've got our top line income summary there. So that's just our $3,300 that we budgeted for an income versus the actual, which was $3,000. We've also got our outgoings summary as well. So that's the top line numbers for our outgoings. So we put a little bit more into savings, as we saw. We put a little bit more into debt repayments. And because I only put a few expenses in here, we've got a lot less expenses than what we've budgeted. You'll probably end up much closer to your budget number when you put in all your expenses, but I only put in a few, which is why the chart shows much less actual spend than the budget. And then finally down the bottom, we've got a breakdown of the actuals for your income and your outgoings. So you can see as a percentage where your money is coming from in your actual income breakdown here, and also where your money is going in your actual outgoings breakdown there. Okay, so that's it. That's how the spreadsheet works. I'll just point out again that if you're doing this month by month, so let's say this is January for you, for example, you can go ahead and save this as a January file and then just make a copy of it and do a February version, and you can save that separately and so on. So you're not just restricted to doing this for 1 month if you don't want to. Okay, so that's our free budget templates for Microsoft Excel and Google Sheets. As I said before, go ahead and download the version that you want and save yourself a copy. There's no need to sign up to any mailing lists or anything like that. It's all yours. And I hope this helps you with your household finances.